הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. Try with me. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom to all of you.
I know we have a number of visitors tonight. I'm Stephanie Bernstein, one of the rabbis here at Erev Shalom. I'm here with Cantor Michael Shochet, and we're so delighted that you're all here to welcome Shabbat with us. And tonight we have sort of a little taste of what will come tomorrow, in that we are calling two wonderful young people to the Torah for the first time as B'nai Mitzvah. We have Molly and Drew, and they will be helping us to lead the service tonight.
It's so great that we're all together.
It is.
We opened up the wings so that people feel free. They can spread out if they want to spread out. But we're wearing masks. Since we're standing here, we're wearing masks. When we get up there, we'll take our masks off so you can recognize us again and see who we are.
Who are you?
Exactly. Very hard to sing in these masks.
Yeah.
But sing we will. So we're going to turn to page 24 in your prayer books, page 24. And if you're watching at home, of course, the prayer book is on our website, on our live streaming page. There's a link on our page with a little icon of the prayer book. Just click on that, and you can have it open while we do our service. You can follow along. We're on page 24. Page 24. And if you're here with us for the first time, it's the smaller blue prayer book, Mishkan Tefillah, that's in the pews in front of you. For you all, it's underneath your seat. Shalom Aleichem. Let's join together. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And just a couple of quick announcements. I apologize for not making them sooner. I wanted to ask everyone if you could please turn off your cell phones. That's not something we've had to say very much in the last 18 months. And also wanted to remind everyone who's here that we ask that everyone wear a mask during the service as we're inside.
So this is a great time to wave to someone you know. Obviously, you can't shake hands, but we can wave and say hello through a smiling eyes
Absolutely.
as you greet each other on Shabbat, and we prepare for our service.
Yeah. So it is my honor to call up Jessica, Molly's mom, and Shanna, Drew's mom, to help us continue with our service by lighting the Shabbat candles, and we are on page 2.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
A source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Let's join together in the candle lighting on page 2. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. So let's turn to our Kabbalat Shabbat, the welcoming of the Sabbath, page 12. I'm sorry, page, not page 12, page 20.
Is it 20?
Page
Yep,
20,
I think so.
Lecha Dodi. We'll sing verses 1, 2, and 9. And if you're comfortable with the traditional custom of when we get to verse 9, you can rise, face the entrance to the sanctuary as we symbolically welcome in the Sabbath bride, and then we turn around and sing the final Lecha Dodi together. So Lecha Dodi, let's join together, page 20. Yalla la 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 Lecha Dodi, Yalla la 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 likrat kala, Yalla la 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 penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabe, Yalla la 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 Lecha Dodi, Yalla la 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 likrat kala, Yalla la 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 penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad ishmianu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'litilah ya ilai ya la 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 lecha Dodi ya la 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 likrat kala ya la 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 penei Shabbat nekabela likrat Shabbat ונלכה, היא מקור הברכה, בראש מקדם נסוכה, סופה עשה במחשבה תחילה, יאי לי לי, יאללה לה לה לי לך אדוני, יאללה לה לה לי לקראת כלה, יאללה לה לה לי פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה, אוי ושלום עטרת בלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, יאי לי לי, יאללה לה לה לי לך אדוני, יאללה לה לה לי לקראת כלה, יאללה לה לה לי פני שבת, פני שבת נקבל, יאללה לה לה לי לך אדוני, יאללה לה לה לי לקראת כלה, יאללה לה לה לי פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה.
We continue on page 28 with the Baruch, our call to worship.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Le'olam Va'ed.
Won't you please join me on the top of page 31 in the English? Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. And let's read together on the bottom of page 33. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all of these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works, and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Page 34.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated.
Let's join together on page 36, chanting V'ahavta ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Please join with me responsively on the bottom of page 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and time again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace.
Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Page 40.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלינו, נורא תהילות אוסף אלינו, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה ליאנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim.
And on page 46, we begin the tefillah section of our service, so I invite you to rise if you're comfortable, and we join together in chanting the first few prayers beginning on page 46. Adonai sefatai tifta, ufi agite hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 48. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chaste Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem, Lema'an Shemo Be'achava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Page 50. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechaye hakol, atah rav le'oshia, morid hatal. Mechalkel hayim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofech holim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar. Michamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melach, melech memit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata lechachayot hakol. Baruch ata Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Page 52. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom, yahaleluka selah. Baruch ata Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. You may be seated. Page 54. Ata kidashta et yom hashvi'i l'shimcha. You set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you blessed it above all other days, more sacred than all festival times. So it is written in your Torah, the heaven and the earth were finished and all their array. On the seventh day God had completed the work that had been done, ceasing then on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy and ceased from all the creative work that God had chosen to do. Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, retzei v'imnuchatenu, kadeshenu b'mitzvotecha, v'tein chelkenu b'toratecha, sabe'enu mituvecha, v'samechenu b'shuatecha, v'ta'el libeinu le'ovdecha be'emet, v'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu be'ahava uvratzon Shabbat kodshecha v'yanuchu v'Yisrael mekadeshei shemecha Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Together, our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest, sanctify us with your mitzvot, and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness, and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai our God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel, who sanctifies your name, may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. And now we turn to page 56, the Ritzei, our part of the concluding prayers of the Amidah. That's all about prayer. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu Be'amecha Yisrael U'tefilatam be'ahava tikabel U'tehi l'ratzon Tamid avodat Yisrael Yisrael Amecha El Karor Lechol Korab Penei Lavadecha V'chonenu Shefoch Ruchaka Aleinu V'techezena Einenu B'shuvecha L'Tzion Perachamim Baruch atah Adonai Hamachazir Shechinato Page 59. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life. Wonder beyond words for the awareness of soul, our light within. For the world around us so filled with beauty. For the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ulecha na'eh lehodot. Page 61. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as the safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamavarech et amo Yisrael, Bashalom. A moment of silent prayer. shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 Page 253. We think about all those people who are on beds of illness and need our prayers for their sustenance, for their for healing of body, mind, and spirit. And so we offer for them traditional Misha Berach prayer. Misha Berach Avotenu v'imotenu Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Varech et hacholim Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleichem Lecha Chalimam Urapotam Lecha Chazikam V'Yishlach Lachem Mehira Rafua Shlema Min HaShamayim Rafua HaNefesh Rafua HaGuf Hashta B'Agalav Azman Kariv Nomar Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all those who are ill, including Alon ben Barbara, Hannah Esther bat Krendel, Hannah Leah bat Yosef Behendel, Sima Pearl Leah bat Chaya, Yehuda ben Fishel, Rabbi Lior bar Ami, Henry Botak, Benaifer Davar, Elizabeth Drabkin, Ellen Gallant, Gail Gershman, Jamie Hecker, Sarah Heppenstall, Debbie Jastor, Martha Kelly, Kathy Cusell, Rhoda Moses, Stan Richter, David Roby, Laura Siegel, Angie Slonim, Dennis Stanley, and all those who are victims of violence in Israel, in Afghanistan, around the world, all those who are in service to our country, who need emotional, physical, and spiritual healing. And if you would like to say the name of someone you're thinking about, please do so as we go around the congregation. May the blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, as together we say, Amen. And we sing together the words of Misha Berach, the second verse, page 253. Misha שברכימותינו, מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Those of you who've been coming to services this summer, watching services on our live stream, know that our summer service theme, we have a different theme every summer, is Jewish humor. And at the beginning of July, when it was my privilege to sort of start this summer series, I spoke about 4 elements of Jewish humor, or broad characteristics of Jewish humor. Jewish humor is usually substantive. It is anti-authoritarian. It often has a critical edge, right? And everyone is open to being mocked in Jewish humor, even God. So it's not surprising that 2 of the Jewish comics whose body of work includes all 4 categories are Mort Saul and Lenny Bruce. And those of you who don't know who Mort Saul and Lenny Bruce were, you're going to get an education, and not completely. You can go home and watch YouTube, but I think they're very, very important when we're talking about Jewish humor. Mort Saul and Lenny Bruce changed the trajectory of comedy, the kind of comedy that was popular in the 1950s and 60s. They used their platforms, they used the stage to talk about things that weren't usually discussed by comics, and both of them spoke truth to power. Gerald Nachman, who discussed the rise of Mort Saul, Lenny Bruce, and other modern comedians in his book, Seriously Funny, The Rebel Comedians of the 1950s and 60s, said that before Mort Saul came along, comedians weren't supposed to really ruffle the audience's feathers. The mantra had been, he wrote, don't talk politics, don't talk religion, and don't talk sex. Talk about your wife, talk about your mother-in-law, but don't upset anybody. Well, Mort Saul talked about everything. He changed the conversation. Mort Saul, who I believe is still living, he's 94, 95, is considered by many people to be the first notable political satirist since Will Rogers. He pioneered a style of social satire that poked fun at those in power and discussed current events in his act. He improvised monologues while holding a newspaper. Those of you who remember him may remember this. He would come on stage. He wasn't wearing a suit and a tie. He had a V-neck sweater and a shirt underneath, and he was holding a newspaper as a prop. He was the first comedian to have a cover story about him on Time magazine, 1960. Steve Allen said that Mort Saul was the only real political philosopher that we have in modern comedy. And he inspired many comics, including Lenny Bruce, Jonathan Winters, George Carlin, Dick Gregory, Woody Allen. And Woody Allen said of Mort Saul, he was the best thing I ever saw. There was a need for a revolution. Everybody was ready for a revolution, but some person had to come along who could perform the revolution and be great. Mort was the one. He was the tip of the iceberg. Underneath were all the other people who came along. As I mentioned, Lenny Bruce, the great Nichols and May, and Second City. Mort, however, was the vanguard of the group. He was loved by many politicians, despite the fact that he poked fun at them, including John F. Kennedy, who commented on Saul's relentless pursuit of everybody. And in fact, Mort Saul wrote jokes for John F. Kennedy. The late Hubert Humphrey said, whenever there is political bloat, Mort sticks a pin in it. His style of performing was unusual. I mentioned how he came out sort of very casually. He was a gifted narrator. He was so good at taking you along on his trajectory that you didn't quite realize until he was done that you had been on this really Byzantine journey. The speed with which he delivered his monologues was also notable. The British film critic Penelope Gilliatt recalled how Saul's improvisation goes on a breakneck stammering loop, and you think it will never make the circle. It always does. For her, it was like watching a circus act. He freewheels a bike on a high wire tightrope with his brain racing and his hands off the handlebars. So you can imagine that Mort Saul was not somebody who we could easily relay one-liners, but I did find a few. And he said, liberals feel unworthy of their possessions. Conservatives feel they deserve everything they've stolen. He said, and this was a long time ago, I couldn't find the date on this one. I was on stage last night and I gave a medical report about Donald Trump. I said he was hospitalized for an attack of modesty. Nixon's the kind of guy that if you were drowning 50 feet offshore, he'd throw you a 30-foot rope. Then Kissinger would go on the TV the next night and say that the president had met you more than halfway. During the House Committee on Un-American Activities hearings, he drew a laugh even as he condemned the tactics of Joe McCarthy and others. He said, every time the Russians throw an American in jail, the committee throws an American in jail to get even. Finally, he said, comedians have to challenge the power. Comedians should be dangerous and devastating and funny. That's the hardest part. Dangerous, devastating, and funny, these are words that certainly describe Lenny Bruce. He was a social critic, a stand-up comic, and a satirist. He was known for an open, free style of comedy that integrated politics, religion, and sex, often using vulgar language. New generations are getting to know Lenny Bruce through the appearance of his character on the wonderful program, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. In his time, he was branded a sick comic. Lenny Bruce saw his comedy as a means to an end. He said, I am not a comedian and I'm not sick. The world is sick and I'm the doctor. I'm a surgeon with a scalpel for false values. His relentless commitment to his comedy on more than one occasion got Lenny Bruce into legal trouble. He was arrested for obscenity after a performance at the Jazz Workshop in San Francisco in 1961 for using a word that I can't say on the bima. He was acquitted, but after that, law enforcement began monitoring his appearances. He was arrested later that year in Los Angeles for using a Yiddish word that I also probably shouldn't say on the bima, so I won't, but you can ask me afterwards and I'll tell you what it was. The charges were dismissed. He was barred from entering the United Kingdom as an undesirable alien. In 1964, he was performing in Greenwich Village at the club, the Cafe Agogo, and he and the club owners were arrested because of his use of what the police said were obscenities in his act. A 6-month, very widely publicized trial followed. The club owners were convicted, as was Lenny Bruce, but he died before his appeal was decided. In 2003, he was posthumously pardoned by Governor George Pataki. During his life, he was blacklisted from most nightclubs in the United States because owners were fearful that they could be prosecuted for obscenity. Bruce ranted insightfully on war, government, law, injustice, sex, race, cruelties, and injuries, but the law got stuck on his penchant for quote-unquote bad words. People were shocked, perhaps by the wrong part of the set. In his foreword to Bruce's memoir, How to Talk Dirty and Influence People, theater critic Kenneth Tynan parsed the hypocrisy at the heart of Bruce's quote-unquote shocking career. Tynan wrote, he is a true iconoclast. Others josh, snipe, and rib.
Only Bruce demolishes. He breaks through the barrier of laughter to the horizon beyond, where the truth has its sanctuary. People say he is shocking, and they are quite correct. Part of his purpose is to force us to redefine by what we mean by being shocked. The point about Bruce is that he wants us to be shocked, but by the right things, not by four-letter words which violate only convention, but by want and deprivation which violate human dignity. Lenny Bruce had a lifelong drug problem, which unfortunately got worse during the obscenity trial, and he died from a drug overdose in 1966 at the age of 40. A few Lenny Bruce quotes. "All my humor," he said, "is based on destruction and despair. If the whole world were tranquil, without disease and violence, I'd be standing in the bread line, right in back of J. Edgar Hoover." He said, "If God made the body and the body is dirty, then the fault lies with the manufacturer." The liberals, he said, can understand everything except for people who don't understand them. "All die young," he said, "but it's like kissing God." Both Mort Saul and Lenny Bruce broke the mold for what it meant to be a comedian. As Saul said about the comedians of his era, there are talented people along the way, although very few come to mind. They're not very modest. They're not daring, he said. Part of the problem is that comedians don't want to overthrow anything. They want to join it. For Mort Saul and Lenny Bruce, comedy was a means to an end, to shine a light on the injustices, absurdities, and inconsistencies in our country and in our world. And what could be more Jewish than that? As we prepare to conclude our service this evening, I invite you to turn to page 282 for Aleinu, and I would like to invite Peter and Mark, the fathers of our B'nai Mitzvah, to join us on the bima to open the ark.
Okay. And we're going to invite Molly and Drew to lead us in the Aleinu, page 282. So Molly, come on over here, and Drew right here. There, face the ark. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereishit, shehu noteh shamayim v'yoset aretz, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can close the ark. Molly, can you go over there? And Drew, come here.
May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair.
Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with joy of holiness, of freedom, and of peace.
Page 287. Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo Ushamo Echad.
As we prepare to say the Mourner's Kaddish, I invite each of us to take a few moments to think of those we have loved who are no longer living. There are some beautiful meditations and beautiful readings beginning on page 288 and continuing through page 293. And I invite each of us to take a moment to choose one or two of those readings to read silently. This Shabbat, we think of those in our congregation who are in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning for their loved ones. We think of Shosh Harris, the sister of Linda Harris, Andrew J. Karimsky, the father of A.G. Karimsky, Catherine Kapler, sister of Elsie Kapler, and Gloria Blum, the sister of Jacqueline Morse. And I also wanted to invite anyone who is here observing a yahrzeit, when I say the name of your loved one, if you feel comfortable in so doing, I invite you to rise. We recall the names of our loved ones, members of our TRS family, whose yahrzeits we observe this week. Miriam Appleton, Harvey Baer, Alexander Bernstein, Ida Block, Ann Botwick, Sandra Cohen, Estelle Davis, Robert Factor, Barbara Fellner, Ida Fiddleman, Bonnie Fillerman Cobran, Frida Lubert Fishman, Herman Garland, Edward Golden, Helen Griffith, Frida Grosser, Robert Hayutin, Muriel Hennings, Linda Holden, Helene Holland, Betty Hollander, Betty Jardot, Edwin Kahn, Dorothy Kaplan, Alan Katz, Kenneth Kramer, Bernard Krashen, Hilda Krieger, Sonia Levine, Samuel Levy, Morris Liebman, Betty Lipschutz, Michael Littman, Joshua Lazowski, Henry Malinger, Herman Matz, Alvin Melviger, Ruth Miller, Donald Neer, Mildred Newman, Ray Olson, Narita Quinones, Lucille Radcliffe, Vivian Ross, Rosalie Schneider, George Secor, Sandy Shochet, Jean Schatz, Robert Silverman, Richard Slachter, Gerald Spielman, Burton Robert Spingarn, Moses Springer, Margot Springer, Bernice Stearman, Irving Stern, Helen Such, Sally Turman, Daniel Wasserman, Samuel Waxler, Samuel Wendell, Alberta Willens, Arlene Wolf, Charlotte Wolfson, Lillian S. Weiner, Adele Zacharias, and Bernard Zinman. If you are observing a yahrzeit this week and you would like to share the name of your loved one, I invite you to do so.
Harold Wilson.
We turn to page 294 and rise together in support of our mourners to recite the Mourner's Kaddish. 294. Yit gadal v'yit gadash shamei rabbah, Abel ma divra chirhute v'yamlich malchute, B'chayechon u'vyomechon, u'v'chaye d'kol Beit Yisrael, ba'agola u'vizman kori v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam U'Lamei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei d'Kudisha Brichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiram v'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shalomo Rabba min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Zichronam levracha, may the memories of all of our loved ones always be for blessing. Amen. Please be seated. It's now my pleasure to invite Jeremy Sandler to join us on the bima for some words of welcome and some announcements. And Jeremy is the president of our RODEF 2100 group, which was featured the week before last. And Jeremy was quoted in the Washington Jewish Week. So go online when you get home, if you go online on Shabbat, and you can read the wonderful article about RODEF 2100.
Thank you, Rabbi Bernstein, and thank you, Cantor Shochet. Yes, my name is Jeremy Sandler. I am the president of RODEF 2100. For those who may not know, we are the young professionals' voice here at Temple RODEF Shalom. We are a space for Jews in their 20s and 30s to gather, relax, worship, discuss, serve, and celebrate together in community. Our goal is to create Jewish environments in a variety of settings, both spiritual and secular, and welcome all those interested to engage on the level they choose. So if anyone is interested in learning more about RODEF 2100, I would be happy to stick around and tell you more about it. And for those that are joining us at home, you can find, as well as our Washington Jewish Week article, our website on the TRS page. I'm honored to welcome you on behalf of our congregation to our worship service tonight. For those who are visiting, albeit virtual, we hope that you will join us in person when you are able to do so. It would be a joy to welcome you properly and tell you more about our extraordinary community. And to those who have joined us in person, isn't it great to be together again in this space? It really is. Mazel tov to Molly and mazel tov to Drew, who will become B'nai Mitzvah tomorrow. We are so proud of you, and I suspect that your family and friends are as well. Please check out the e-letter from yesterday and the latest edition of The Connection, which is also available on our website for more announcements of upcoming events here at Temple RODEF Shalom. And speaking of which, I wish to share some upcoming program we're doing here at the synagogue. Shabbat Elixir, the essence of ritual, scheduled for tomorrow, Saturday, August 21st at 4 p.m. Rabbi Scott Perlow looks at the relationship among feeling, form, and content in our rituals today, and what they mean for that which we call tradition. He delves into the reasons why these rituals started and continue. Come to the program. The answer may surprise you. We will watch the short ELI video together and then engage in discussion, and after the program, there will be a Havdalah service. Personalizing prayer, scheduled for Wednesday, August 25th and Thursday, August 26th, starting at 7 p.m. Enrich your High Holy Day experience with a 2-session exploration of the themes and prayers of our Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services. Cantor leader will explain the structure of these prayers and bring perspective to prayers like Alvinu Malkeinu, the Shofar service, Unatatanu Tokef, Kol Nidre, and Vidui Confessional. We will consider ways to approach our prayers and Torah readings from a place of personal meaning. You may come one night or both nights. And lastly, the Slichot program, dessert reception and worship service scheduled for next Saturday, August 28th at 8 p.m. You would never think of going on vacation without packing your suitcase first, am I right? So too, we must take time to prepare for our journey through the days of awe. Slichot provides us the opportunity to pack our metaphorical bags and reflect, consider, and open our hearts to the possibility of forgiveness and renewal. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you. And now we turn to Kiddush, and we invite Drew and Molly to join us here at the podiums. Drew. And we are on page 5 for Kiddush. Please rise and let's join in as our B'nai Mitzvah lead us in the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam borei peri hakafim. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho ve'achav ratzon hilanu zikaron le'ma'asei v'reishit ki hu yom tehillah lemikra'ei kodesh zeker l'tziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'arim b'shabbat kodshecha le'ahavu ratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. L'chaim. You can have a sip. Thank you, guys. You can go back to the seat there, but remain standing for our final song, which you can actually find in your programs. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. We build a world from love. And thank you to all the people who make our services happen, to Graham Audio, Frank on the piano, Rob and Gil in our back doing our streaming, and of course Clyde, who you can wish a happy birthday to tomorrow. Clyde. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Let's join together. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, da-da-dai, dai-dai, ya-da-dai-dai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, ya-da-dai, dai-dai, ya-da-dai-dai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, ya-da-dai, dai-dai, ya-da-dai-dai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, ya-da-dai, dai-dai, ya-da-dai-dai. I will build this world from love, ya-da-dai, dai-dai, ya-da-dai-dai. And you must build this world from love, ya-da-dai, dai-dai, ya-da-dai-dai. And if we build this world from love, ya-da-dai, dai-dai, ya-da-dai-dai, then God will build this world from love, ya-da-dai, dai-dai, ya-da-dai-dai.
Adonai oz lemo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. May Adonai strengthen us. May God always give us peace. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Please bring your programs to the back, and please do not forget your to-go neg bag, which is out front, with some goodies for Shabbat. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.